How to create basic V-Ray materials. In this tutorial, you will learn how to create basic V-Ray materials. Before we start, please make sure to set up the startup settings. It is important that you start the tutorial with exactly the same settings. These settings use V-Ray common parameters like output size, advanced lighting and render frame window options. Frame buffer setting. Global switches. Global DMC. Color mapping. Default displacement and global illumination. Setting up gamma. In the 3ds Max preferences, use the gamma 2.2 setup like the screenshot below. Another option is to set output gamma to 1.0, but make sure to set the V-Ray color mapping mode setting to color mapping and gamma so the gamma is burned in the image. Create a simple scene. With this tutorial, we will use a cylinder with a teapot on top. So go ahead and create your scene. Load a V-Ray material. To load the V-Ray material, simply open the material editor, and in the first slot load a V-Ray tool. Assign it to the cylinder and the teapot. You'll see the color change in the viewport. Hit render, a nice gray cylinder and teapot appear. Changing base color of your material with Diffuse Color. In the material editor you can see all the basic V-Ray material properties. Select the first one, Diffuse Color. This is simply the base color of your material. Duplicate the gray material and rename it Teapot. To change the diffuse color, simply click on the color swatch next to it and choose a color, for example a deep red. Assign the teapot material to the teapot in the scene. If you hit render, the teapot should now be red. See screenshot. Setting up the reflection color. The next part of this tutorial is setting up the reflection color. Unlike other 3D software where you can adjust the REF electron strength with a slider, V-Ray uses color values to set it. Black means 0 reflection, white means 100% reflection, mirror. If you choose white for reflection, the diffuse color will completely disappear, since the material is now 100% reflective. For now, choose a medium gray and hit render. You will see that the teapot becomes reflective. It is reflecting the black environment and the gray cylinder, and itself of course. Note the teapot's handle is reflecting in its body. See screenshot. Reflections and environment. As you can see, the reflections look a bit dull. If you want nice reflections, you need something in your scene to reflect in the object. Instead of building a complete environment, there is a much easier way, V-Ray environment maps. Go to an empty slot in the material editor and click the Get Material button. In the Material/Map browser, scroll down and double-click on the V-Ray HDRI map. Now in the HDRI map settings, click the Browse button and choose any V-Ray map. There are a lot of free ones online. In this tutorial however, we will use the famous kitchen V-Ray map. This map is in the probe format and you'll have to select Angular as the mapping type in the V-Ray HDRI settings. See screenshot. Leave everything else default. Now we have to assign the map to the environment of the scene. We will not use the max environment, because V-Ray has its own environment options. Use the max environment only if you want your map to also show up in the background of your rendering. Go to the V-Ray environment rollout, turn on Reflection/Refraction environment override and drag the V-Ray map from the material editor onto the map slot. Reflection in Fresnel. After loading the V-Ray map in the V-Ray reflection environment slot, try to hit render and see the result.
The reflections look very strong. See screenshot. Actually, the material didn't become more reflective, it just got a complete environment to reflect in, so the reflections are simply more prominent now. The material has a medium gray reflection color, which means about 50% reflection strength. This is actually a lot. Next to the reflection color is a small checkbox, Fresnel reflections. This is a very important feature that almost all materials have. Check it and render again.
The reflections look a lot less strong now.
The Fresnel option depends on the index of refraction of the material. IOR is a property in the refraction options, but as you can see in the reflection options, there is a property called Fresnel IOR which is dimmed. Next to the Fresnel checkbox, there is a small L which is a link button. When it is pressed, the Fresnel IOR is linked to the refraction IOR. This is the default behavior and also physically correct. When you unpress it, you can change the Fresnel IOR independently from the refraction IOR. For now, unpress it and change the Fresnel IOR to 1.3. Render again, and notice the reflections now. In the center of the object the reflections are less strong, while the sides of the object still reflect a lot. When you enter 1.0, all reflections will be gone. When you enter for example 16, you will get an almost mirror-like surface. It is a good habit to always use Fresnel on any reflective material, and simply change the reflection color and Fresnel IOR to your needs. Experiment yourself with reflection color, Fresnel IOR, and diffuse color to see the effects on the material.
Refraction color. First delete the teapot and create some other objects, for example a sphere and a torus knot with some lumps in it. Adjust the material like in the screenshot, a red diffuse and a middle gray refraction color. All the reflection parameters are back to default, so no reflections.
Render the image and you'll see that the objects are semi-transparent. The red diffuse color is still partially visible. Refraction. A better way to color the refractions is by using a tinted refraction color and a black diffuse. Black diffuse means that you turn off the diffuse component, and the color of the material will be determined by the refraction color only.
Hit render and you will see that the refractions are all tinted red now. Look at the bottom of the sphere and compare it to the previous image.
Refraction glossiness. There is also a glossiness parameter for refraction. This will blur the refractions. Play around with refraction color, darker, lighter, more saturated, and the glossiness parameter to test different effects. The subdivs control the quality of the blurry refractions. Note that blurry refractions are quite slow to render. There are many other refraction parameters, but for now this is enough. With basic diffuse, reflect and refract settings you can create already a lot of materials. Refraction IOR. The IOR is index of refraction. It is a material property that changes the way light travels through transparent objects. Light hits a surface and will bend off under a certain angle. It travels through the object and when leaving it, it will bend again. The IOR makes for example objects underwater appear closer or in another position than they actually are. The first image is with the refraction IOR lowered to 1.1, and the Fresnel IOR linked to the refraction IOR again. As you can see, the object refracts the light less so you can almost see right through it without much distortion. Because we linked both IORs, reflections are also not very strong anymore. Change the refraction IOR to 2.2.
Now there is a lot more refraction going on. We linked both IORs, so reflections are also a lot stronger than before.
What we have learned. Using the parameters we applied in this tutorial like 1. Diffuse 2. Reflection color 3. Fresnel 4. Refraction color and glossiness 5. Refraction IOR. We can already create some commonly used materials such as 1. Plastics 2. Glass 3. Transparent plastics 4. Metals like alloy, copper, chrome, steel, and more. If you want to test your V-Ray and 3ds Max projects, visit garagefarm.net for a free test credit with all features enabled without any commitment.